Hey, I'm Randy. This is my second channel where I talk about all sorts of different things, which probably isn't a great idea for the algorithm, but I just want to have fun on this channel. We're going to talk about the daily reflections. You can probably guess what I do in some of my free time, but since we're supposed to be anonymous, I'm not going to tell you exactly what I do in my free time. However, if you're smart, you'll probably figure it out. So I'm doing this to further reinforce what I read each morning and what it means to me. I'll generally screenshot some of the parts of the daily reflections and I send it out to a group of my buddies. Some are in the program, some are out of the program. But these concepts don't just apply to people in the program. They can apply to anybody. Let's get started. March 13th, we have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. Boy, do I know that. It should continue for our lifetime. That comes from Alcoholics Anonymous, page 84. The word entered and the phrase entered into the world of the Spirit are very significant. I agree. They imply action, a beginning, getting into, a prerequisite to maintaining my spiritual growth. The Spirit being the immaterial part of me. Barriers to my spiritual growth are self-centeredness and materialistic focus on worldly things. Spirituality means devotion to spiritual instead of worldly things. It means obedience to God's will for me. I understand spiritual things to be unconditional love, joy, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, self-control, and humility. Anytime I allow selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear to be part of me, I block out spiritual things. As I maintain my sobriety, growing spiritually becomes a lifelong process. My goal is spiritual growth, accepting that I'll never have spiritual perfection. Ain't that the truth? This has been a journey that I've been on really since, 2003. Haven't done it perfectly all of the time, but I have noticed, obviously, the more that I read the daily reflections, the more meetings I go to, and the more I'm plugged into my friend group, and the more that I'm trying to just kind of share little tidbits that I've learned, the better I do each day. The interesting thing that I pulled out of this is barriers to my spiritual growth are self-centeredness and materialistic focus on worldly things. For me, that's stuff. I like stuff. I like cameras. I like stereo stuff, obviously. I have another channel called The Cheap Audio Man. That's where I make my living. This, however, is my hobby. AA is my hobby. Last night I was looking at new cameras, and I need another camera like I need a hole in the head. But there's something about just buying new stuff that, I don't know, I kind of get obsessive about it. This year, I've tried to do a lot more meditation. And meditation for me just means sitting and being quiet, doing a little prayer, and then just listening. Meditation also means going to meetings and hearing what other people have to say, and then thinking about it. I understand spiritual things to be unconditional love. That's something that I don't think any of us are really capable of unconditional love. I got a little grumpy at my kids last night, and sometimes I struggle with giving my kids anything they want or anything they ask for and confusing that with unconditional love. This can devolve into a parenting conversation too. But unconditional love, sometimes when it comes to my kids, means actually doing the hard thing, saying no, and being a parent rather than being a buddy. I don't know why I got off on that tangent. Joy. Sometimes I don't have joy all the time. Yesterday's daily reflections talked about having the opportunity to start your day over whenever you need to, sometimes 100 times a day. And I find when I'm feeling anxiety, I am disconnected from God. Definitely disconnected from God's will. And I'm in fear. And for me, faith that God has a better plan for me can't really coexist with fear. Because I know all the bad things, or what I consider to be difficult things, were never bad things, truly. Because the things that I thought were the worst in the time always prove out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Jordan Peterson, I don't know if you like him, whether or not you like his politics is inconsequential, but he has a lot of good things to say. There's one thing that he said that kind of resonated with me, And that was the path to that is real is through uncomfortable and the most difficult things. And I found that to be true. All right, anytime I allow selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear to be part of me, I block out spiritual things. Absolutely has been part of my life. As I maintain my sobriety, growing spiritually becomes a lifelong process. I talk about this in meetings sometimes, and if you've ever seen Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi is having Daniel wax on, wax off. He has all those cars. Paint the fence. Paint the fence. Daniel has no idea what that has to do with learning karate. But it turns out that Mr. Miyagi knew what he was doing. And when push came to shove, literally, Daniel knew karate. Because he was taking action, maybe not out of his own accord, but he was taking action, and he didn't understand what that action was going to do for him in the future. And that's teach him how to be a lethal killing, but just kidding. Teach him how to defend himself. But those are the daily reps, those daily things that I've found that I need. And a lot of times I don't even understand what it's going to lead to later on. But the daily prayer, the daily meditation, the daily reflections, and then talking about the daily reflections and kind of unpacking them and how they apply to me today, and really kind of using it as a measuring stick of where I'm at. Finally, my goal is spiritual growth, accepting that I'll never have spiritual perfection. Doing this thing or trying to do this thing for over 20 years, it seems like things continue to be unlocked the more that I'm, plugged into the spiritual aspect of it, and having humility and understanding that I'm never going to have spiritual perfection. But the coolest part is the journey, and the coolest part is actually having faith and waiting for the miracle to happen. And that's been my life, especially the last 5 years, because I did this YouTube thing. I took a chance. And had I not been in a spiritual position when I made the decision to take that chance, my life would not look like it does now. And I have an awesome life. And if I look back, I understand that whatever plans I had for me, God kind of chuckled at, because he's like, listen, man, if you do this, I've got something in mind for you that's way better than you thought would be possible. And that has reinforced my faith, my belief in God and spirituality. So obviously I'm starting to ramble. I hope you enjoyed today's Daily Reflections, March 13th. If you're watching this, put it in the comments. What part of the Daily Reflections today meant the most to you and why? Thank you so much for watching. If you want to subscribe. It's going to be all over the place. I have no idea what type of content I'm going to put on this channel, but it's going to be something that I enjoy. And I sure as heck enjoy the Daily Reflections.